Welcome to another edition of the KO Corner. In this segment, we're going to talk about Errol Spence. The welterweight Errol Spence versus the rest of the welterweight division and how he stacks up, what his chances are, and what can we expect from him going forward. Now, with Errol Spence a few weeks ago, he fought another welterweight, highly regarded welterweight, in Mr. Chris Algieri. Chris Algieri, his only two defeats actually coming against Manny Pacquiao, who is a Hall of Famer. Some consider him an all-time great. He definitely has titles and accolades to justify that. And the other loss came against Amir Khan, who is a multiple division champion, I believe, at 135 and 140. He's made a minor splash at welterweight at 147. Highly regarded as a very good boxer. And Chris Algieri lost that fight against Amir Khan last year. And that was actually a pretty closely contested fight. Amir Khan was definitely given a run for his money in that one. So Chris Algieri, by all means, isn't a bum. You know, he also fought the likes of Ruslan Provodnikov, who's considered the Russian Rocky. Earned a split decision victory over him for the WBO junior welterweight title a couple years back. So he's been in there with some hard hitters, with some tough guys, with some really good boxers in Amir Khan. So this is a pretty good test for Errol Spence, considering that he's been heralded as a great prospect, 2012 Olympian, sparred with some of today's top fighters. He sparred with Adrian Broner, reportedly had him out on his feet. He sparred with Floyd Mayweather, gave Floyd Mayweather really good work and messed up his eye, according to sources. And Floyd, said himself that Errol Spence is the future, and he holds him in high regard. And I'm sure he would love to promote him as one of his TMT fighters. That remains to be seen. But yeah, Errol Spence is definitely a really good fighter. Just given off the eye test, he just has to face the opposition to really prove his skills and showcase his skills. And he recently did that against Chris Algieri, having dominated him from round 1 to round 5. I mean, as long as it lasted. And just for watching Errol Spence, you can really appreciate his caliber of fighter. I mean, he does everything really well. He's very fundamental, which is something he's definitely talked about in interviews, and pretty much hinting at, I think in a recent interview after his win against Algieri, hinting at Manny Pacquiao is not very technically sound and lacks fundamentals, which is true. But he makes up for it with his speed and athleticism and unpredictability. But yeah, Errol Spence definitely is very fundamentally sound. He has really good footwork. He maintains good balance. He gets good leverage when punching, when placing his punches. He's very accurate. He throws various types of punches. He never smothers his punches, so he keeps a very good range. He does things like naturally, like just like a savvy veteran would do. He's very skilled. Defensively, he's responsible for the most part. He doesn't really allow himself to take unnecessary punishment. And he's a big welterweight at that. He looks like he's big, like he can fight easily at a junior middleweight, which is a division up. And on top of that, he's a southpaw. So, I mean, he has a lot of advantages going into most of his fights. He's athletic as well, has pretty decent speed. And as he showcased in that Algieri fight, he has really good power, being as he became the first guy to stop Algieri. Pacquiao knocked him down 6 times, I believe, in their fight, but he couldn't stop him. And Errol Spence damn near just knocked the soul out of Algieri the way he put it on him. So, I mean, he beat the brakes off him. So, I mean, Chris Algieri can probably be considered a B class fighter, and uh, Errol Spence dominated him. Now, how does Errol Spence fare against some of the other welterweights in the division? That definitely remains to be seen, but just using the eye test and just trying to measure the quality of opponents and comparing Errol Spence's resume to the other welterweights. Sure, resume-wise, he may not stack up as of yet, but I'm just stylistically speaking and just off the eye test, I think Spence would give all these other welterweights a lot of problems. I think I would favor him over Adrian Broner, who says he wants to move up to welterweight. You know, pending any like legal issues. Hopefully, he can get everything resolved. Um, I don't think we'll see a Broner versus Errol Spence fight, but at least not yet. If that were to happen, but if I'm Adrian Broner, I wouldn't fight. I wouldn't fight Spence. Spence is a problem. I think I would favor Errol Spence over Keith Thurman. With Thurman, I think he's a good fighter. He's shown in his fights to actually have the ability to make adjustments. If something isn't working, he'll do something else to counter what the opponent is doing. That's a mark of intelligence. That's a mark of a true champion, being able to adapt. So I mean, aside from the intelligence, obviously Keith Thurman does have legitimate power in both hands. He has pretty good speed. Um, he's athletic, so he can use any of those traits, the power, the athleticism to cover up some of his fundamental flaws. Against most fighters, I don't know if he would be able to do that against Errol Spence. I think Spence would capitalize off that. And one of the main things I see Errol Spence doing to Keith Thurman, which is something he does to all of his opponents, is he attacks the body. He is adamant on attacking the body. He's consistent with that. And Keith Thurman, in one of his last fights against Louis Collazo hurt him bad to the body. I think that's something that Spence would capitalize on. So I think that's a bad style for him. Spence against Sean Porter. Reportedly, Spence has gotten the best of Sean Porter in sparring, but sparring is definitely much different from an actual fight. I would favor Spence over Sean in their fight. I have a lot of respect for Sean. He fights. It seems like he's willing to fight anybody, and he's very aggressive. He's very athletic as well. Good dude all around, but I think Spence would be too much for him. I think Spence would just break him down. And with Porter, even if he was very aggressive during the fight, I think he would smother a lot of his work against Spence and leave himself open for a few shots. So I would favor Spence. I would favor him over Danny Garcia. I mean, I'm not going to give an elaborate breakdown of each fight and fighter, just because nothing has happened yet. So I mean, if there were to be the actual signing of the paper of the contracts between Errol Spence and whoever, then I think that's when a breakdown will be required. But in regards to, or at least a well drawn out like analysis and breakdown. But the one fighter that I think would give Spencer the most problems or beat him or should be favored over Spence would be Kell Brook, who I believe is the IBF welterweight champion of the world, which is the guy Errol Spence is trying to fight the most. I believe he mentioned his name during the interview, called him out, said he wants to fight him. I think that's a little bit too soon for Spence. I think he needs a few more fights before taking on Kell Brook. Because I think Kell Brook, even though he lacks the opposition on his resume, just looking at him, he's well polished as a fighter, very defensively sound. I mean, he's a big welterweight. He has power. He has a great jab. He knows how to box. And, anything's possible between the two, but I think that would be the most compelling matchup for Errol Spencer for sure. Errol Spence, excuse me. So, but we'll see what happens with that. But the future's looking bright for Spence. The future's looking bright for the welterweight division if these guys start fighting each other. Hopefully we see that this year and the next year going forward. And I look forward to seeing Spence and seeing his career develop as he continues to make step after step, going in, stepping up the opposition, and trying to do big things. So we'll see what happens. So let us know your thoughts, your opinions. What do you guys think about Errol Spence? Do you think he is the truth, as his nickname suggests? Is he the future of the welterweight division? Is he a future of boxing? Is he the best welterweight in the division? What are your thoughts? Let us know.